Yes.
At the very outset, I'd like to thank AIOC, Dr. Deepak Mishra sir, Dr. Lakshmanthu sir, Dr. Ajay Arora sir, and Dr. Hemanti giving me this opportunity. I'll be speaking on endophthalmitis, medical management, and intravitreal injection. And I'll be touching a little bit on the surgical aspect of it. Dr. Ajay Arora sir will be describing it in details. This is a picture which we are all scared of after a well-done cataract surgery or any other surgery, intraocular surgery. But once we have this picture, we have to know how to handle it. What are the goals of treatment? We have to kill the invading organism, arrest the damage by exotoxins and endotoxin, and arrest the post-inflammatory response. What options do we have? Antibiotics can be given intravitreally, oral antibiotics, topical antibiotics. We have the option of pars plana vitrectomy surgery and also using corticosteroids. Now, intravitreal injections are the only surefire way to be assured that the drug will reach the vitreous cavity in the right concentration. Topical drops and subconjunctival injections are not enough, and the drugs do not reach the vitreous cavity in the proper concentration. There are, however, systemic medications which reach the vitreous at a minimum inhibitory concentration. We'll be discussing them later on. Now, most of the knowledge of endophthalmitis management is based on the EVS study, which was published way back in 1995. But one of the largest or the biggest caveats is that it included only those cases where the cornea was clear enough to perform a pars plana vitrectomy, which means all cases where there was a big corneal infiltration or rather a pretty aggressive organism, those were excluded from the study. Now, what did EVS conclude? They said that systemic antibiotic had no role in the management of endophthalmitis. Routine immediate pars plana vitrectomy was not required when the visual acuity was better than TL. And pars plana vitrectomy was beneficial only when patient had a visual acuity of TL only. Now, after all these years, is there any change? Do systemic medications have any role? Well, EVS says that it prolongs hospital stay, increases cost, and has systemic side effects. However, the ground reality is slightly different. Most ophthalmologists feel more secure in using an oral antibiotic. They prolong the duration of the minimum inhibitory concentration and have a better chance of killing all the viable organisms. Now, in a major review published in Survey of Ophthalmology in August 2017, a modified protocol for the EVS was proposed. After the initial diagnosis of endophthalmitis, it was proposed that the patient should have a vitreous tab along with injection of vancomycin and ceftazidime, and they included oral antibiotic, moxifloxacin or linezolid. After the initial treatment, assessment was done within 24 hours, and in case of a poor response, they noted that a repeat intravitreal injection had no role, and the recommendation was an urgent vitrectomy within the next 48 hours. Now, what are the most commonly used systemic antibiotics? These are the drugs which may be used. However, we prefer ciprofloxacin, 750 milligram 12 hourly. These are the organisms which most commonly cause acute post-op and delayed post-op. Now, there are certain indicators of very high virulent organism. These are symptom onset within 2 days of surgery, visual acuity of light perception, afferent pupillary defect, wound abnormalities, corneal infiltrate. Now, in these cases, we have to be very aggressive with our treatment. The first choice of intravitreal antibiotic is still vancomycin and ceftazidime. The second choice, however, for gram-negative organisms is now changing, and it's imipenem. We have had very good experience with using imipenem. Especially in aggressive cases, we can directly go for imipenem in the first phase itself. And there are multiple reports of successful use of piperacillin tazobactam. Now, for gram-positive, most organisms are still responsive to vancomycin, but for gram-negative, we need to be very cautious. Ceftazidime has a very high rate of resistance, and the second choice drug is in these cases amikacin, imipenem, or a piperacillin tazobactam combination. For fungus, ampho-B and voriconazole work well, and for Bacillus cereus, clindamycin is the drug of choice. Now, multiple studies have come up where the organism profile in India was noted to be slightly different from that noted in the West. In India, we do get a very high percentage of gram-negative organisms. And even in the gram-negative organisms, there is pretty high resistance to ceftazidime and amikacin. So in case we have a doubt that it's a very aggressive organism, we can actually go in for an imipenem injection right in the beginning. Now, one important thing to know is that in the COVID era, there have been multiple reports of severe endogenous fungal endophthalmitis following severe COVID-19 disease. This is an entity which we all should know about and be aware of, because at the initial presentation, we might mistake it for a non-infectious uveitis and actually start the patient on steroids, which will be really harmful for a patient with fungal endogenous endophthalmitis. These patients have been reported from multiple centers all over India, and they have reported that with antifungal intravitreal injection, oral medication, and vitrectomy, they tend to respond pretty well. Now, coming back to our post-op endophthalmitis, vitreous biopsy has to be done in the initial step. It is better than a vitreous tap because vitreous biopsy avoids any retinal traction. It avoids a negative tap using only a needle. And in cases where it's very difficult, we can actually go for an AC tap as well. Now, single port vitreous biopsy is a relatively easy procedure and can be performed by all ophthalmologists. It's not very difficult and it yields undiluted vitreous sample and should be done by everyone. Now, these are the instruments which we need to perform a vitreous biopsy. I'll be just explaining the preparation of vancomycin. The dose which we need is 1 milligram in 0.1 ml. Vancomycin can come in multiple concentration. I'll be discussing how to prepare it from a 500 milligram injection. We first take 10 ml of sterile water for injection, and this is then mixed with 500 milligram of vancomycin. Now, one important thing to know is that we need to have multiple needles because at every step of the procedure, we have to change our needle. Once the mixture is done, we take 0.2 ml of the solution using a separate needle in a tubercle syringe. This is then made 1 ml using sterile water for injection, again using a separate needle. Finally, we try to mix it with rotating motions and we allow an air bubble to go up and down. Once that is done, once we are satisfied, we change it to a 30 gauge needle or a 26 gauge needle and discard the rest. We then cap the needle and we tend to put a tape so as to mark it. Next, I'll be showing the preparation of ceftazidime. Now, ceftazidime, the required concentration is 2.25 milligram in 0.1 ml. We actually need not memorize all these things. We should have a proper chart in our OR. Now, for 1 gram of ceftazidime, we need 4.4 ml of sterile water for injections. The same is 2.2 ml for 500 milligram. Once that is mixed, we take a new needle and we draw 0.1 ml of the solution. We make it 1 ml using sterile water for injection, again using a new needle. The mixing is done using the rotating motions and allowing an air bubble to move up and down. Once that is complete, we take a 30 gauge needle and keep only 0.1 ml of the injection and discard the rest. Now, moving to the vitreous tap procedure, endophthalmitis is a pretty painful condition and it's always better to do a peribulbar block. One important point to remember is that we should not press on the globe because the wound might heal. Betadine is used for painting all around the eye. Dressing and dripping is done as usual. Next, we have to use an automated cutter. Now, automated cutter comes with almost all phaco machines, and the initial steps are basically the same. We have to use the irrigation and the aspiration line and connect it to the cutter. Once that is done, we have to follow the instructions for the priming process. These are basically same for every other procedure. What we need separate is this adapter that comes with IB sets. One end attaches syringe and the other end we attach to the aspiration line. This will be used to aspirate the vitreous tap sample. We do not need the irrigation, so that is kept aside. Next, we move to the eye, and we can actually use a trocar for making the entry. In case you do not have trocar, you can actually go in for a MVR and do the so it's always important to actually check the cutter prior to entering the vitreous cavity. See whether you are actually cutting. We start by gently cutting and then ask our assistant to aspirate. We do not need a large amount of sample, only 0.5 ml is sufficient. Once we are satisfied that we have taken up the adequate sample, we then stop cutting and stop aspirating further. Also, in case we notice any hypotony in the globe, we stop aspirating. Next, we go ahead with the intravitreal injections. Now, intravitreal injections, we have to use separate needles. Also, the sample which we have collected needs to be capped and sent within half an hour to the microbiological evaluation. The injections are done through the trocar in a drop-by-drop fashion, slowly into the vitreous cavity. Again, we have to use separate syringe and separate needle because these drugs tend to interact with each other. Once that is done, we can remove the trocar. In case of any confusion, a suture can be put. If it's self-sealing, a suture need not be used. Now, there are certain indications where we can actually go in directly for a pars plana vitrectomy when there is a highly virulent organism, no response to intravitreal injection. In post-traumatic or fungal end-off, we actually prefer pars plana vitrectomy right in the beginning. Now, initial few steps of the pars plana vitrectomy I'll just be touching upon. We have to visualize the cannula. In case you have any doubt, we can use a sutured 6 mm infusion cannula. And it's very important to actually visualize it in the vitreous cavity. The rest of the steps are fairly simple. We just have to do a core vitrectomy. Do not try to lift the posterior highlight. Do not just do a core vitrectomy. As soon as we can see the disc and the posterior pole, we stop. Then we go ahead with the intravitreal injections. So even in post-traumatic cases, we can have a pretty decent result. Now, I need to mention this e-kit, which is available, no financial interest again, from Orolab. They contain all the drugs that you need, and you can actually have it, especially in your peripheral. There is a role of steroids in bacterial end-off. However, if you are doubtful, you have a doubt that it's a fungal case, then it's better to avoid. Again, microbiological workup can be done in these media. In delayed post-op, only intravitreal injections might not be helpful, and you might have to go for a pars plana vitrectomy with a partial capsulectomy or even a lens removal. So to summarize, early diagnosis and management can save most eyes. In the absence of large-scale studies with the newer drugs, we have to go in for vancomycin and ceftazidime in acute endophthalmitis in the first stage. AC-tap and a single port vitrectomy can be done for microbiology. And in patients who fail to respond to initial treatment, vitrectomy is recommended. Thank you very much.